Okay, is that done? Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Series 2, Episode 5, that's a thing there, of my Instagram Live interviews. Tonight, I know it's the second last one of my series, but don't forget I have Series 3 in the making, and I have a nice guest to finish out on next week. So, without further ado, I will bring on tonight's guest, Lisa Buckner of Roam Your Roots. Oh, it worked. I was actually wondering if it was going to work there for a second.
Okay, I hope my internet isn't spotty. I don't know if it's your side or my side. It's probably my side. I'm just gonna get off Wi-Fi really quick.
Mine wasn't fantastically either, Lisa. Being out in the countryside isn't the most convenient for Wi-Fi, but anyway, so how are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm just after having dinner after doing a long day of homework, so I'll let you put your own ending onto that.
That's
Um,
fun. I don't miss homework, I have to say.
Now, I guarantee I probably won't miss it, but then again, I got college coming down the line, so even more.
Yeah. Are you,
So
are you, sorry, one question for you. Are you planning on like going into genealogy as your like university studies, or is this just like a side thing?
I hope I do, but
Okay.
I really hope I hope to, but it's kind of wondering whether I will or not later on.
Yeah.
It's depending on if there's like jobs out there. There probably is.
Yeah.
Uh, that for any of you watching, that's one hint I'll give. There's going to be mention about jobs in genealogy later, uh, in the next episode. But without further ado, I better get started on this one. So I figure I better let you introduce yourself.
Yeah. My name's Lisa. I'm the person behind Roam Your Roots, so some of you might already follow me. I am from Seattle, but now I live in DC, so that's really fun because I get to go to the National Archives in non-COVID times. Still waiting for that to reopen. um, and I guess I started Roam Your Roots a few years ago because I saw at the time that no one was really focusing on like the connection between genealogy and travel. Like that's what I really try to do is inspire people to travel and explore their roots. And at the time, like 23andMe and Ancestry DNA were really like blowing up. And DNA tests like weren't just a thing that like really dedicated genealogists did anymore. These were things that like the average person was doing because they wanted to know where they came from. So I was like, these people are probably going to want to try to like travel to where their ancestors came from. So I should start this because this is like blowing up now. And that is what I do now. So,
And it's definitely like not so. I blown up is probably a bit of over an exaggeration, but it
well,
is true.
relatively speaking,
You have you have like grown in popularity, I think, with like your
hope so.
content. Hope so. Like one thing that I think has definitely attracted more people, and anyone watching can probably back me up on this, is your reels that you've done.
Oh,
You say,
yeah,
oh,
they're
but
fun.
they're good. I tried doing one. I haven't published it. It's gone straight in the bin. But it
No.
trust me, it was this. I'm not even gonna try and what's the word? Redo what was actually happening in it. But it was just me kind of looking puzzled to the song "What the Hell" by Avril Lavigne. So you can imagine how that was gonna. You can imagine how that was gonna go down. Uh, not very well is the answer, and it was bad enough that it went in the bin. So.
You're going to have
Uh,
to try to do it again.
No. Well,
No.
maybe down the line. But is there anything that kind of made now? Annoyingly, I don't know where my question sheet has gone, so I'm going to try
Okay.
and remember many of them off the top of my head. So what got you into genealogy?
Um, so growing up, like my dad was always on Ancestry.com. He was like one of the OG Ancestry users. He's doing it all the time, and he got into it because his dad was doing it back in the 70s as like his retirement project. So I think naturally, like I was just always around it and sort of like got interested in it that way. Like my dad never tried to get me interested in it. I know a lot of parents are like asking like, how do I get my kids into genealogy? Like, he never really tried to do that, but luckily I caught on. And now it's me. So
It's just like you go there and then it's an hour
yeah,
this is where
this is who I am now.
but no, I do get what you mean. Like a lot of parents I have seen like either on Twitter or Instagram just kind of asking, like you just kind of see comments on like let's say it's Find My Past or Ancestry or
Yeah.
something like how do you get young people into it? And um like I love how you kind of use the example of you didn't get in to so like you didn't necessarily get into it. It was just kind of you caught on after obviously your grandfather and your father were both doing it. So obviously that will that it it just goes to show that not all the time it's a case of yeah, like you're not necessarily forcing young people into it. You're just kind of like even if it's just like bringing in stories, let's say, like just bringing in, oh, your gran always used to do, I don't know, whatever. You just kind of bring in stories about your ancestors' lives into it. So I like the fact that you kind of didn't necessarily catch on like it from, let's say, a father or a grandfather. It was just a case of you kind of thought, oh, this looks interesting, and then start.
Yeah,
So,
they're lucky that I'm taking it on, or else no one else
yeah.
would. So it worked out.
And the other Lisa that's with us definitely agrees. That gives me hope, it says. And yes, it does. And oh, you're already getting more requests to do more posts on different things. Please do more Irish research tutorials. The Griffiths valuation were superb. I might actually
Oh,
look at
thank
the
you.
Griffiths valuation one because I'm, funnily enough, I've been doing genealogy for 4 years, yet I haven't really looked at it. So I will be looking at that. So I'm going completely out of my mind here. What? No. Is there? I know I've jumped about half the questions like asking this, but
Okay,
like,
we're just talking.
yeah, I really should just do like this, just talk and things. But is there an interesting story or event that has happened in your family history?
Um, I actually have a highlight on my Instagram page of like genealogy stories. So go check that out if you want fun genealogy stories. There's been a few. I can't credit myself with this because it was my grandpa that found it actually, but my third great grandfather was a murderer. Very exciting. um, Not a great dude. He has a lot of stories. He was like indicted on murder. He divorced his wife, and it was like really messy. So that's fun. Those are always fun stories. um, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. I can't really narrow it down to one story.
Fair enough. And again, if for anyone looking now, if you have any questions for Lisa, keep dropping them in because I will probably forget half of the questions if I can't find the stupid sheet.
That's okay.
Uh, oh, is this it? Is this it? No, is it? No, that's
Oh,
so
Fiona's here. Hi, Fiona.
you can see that. So
Sorry, I've never
if
done live, so I don't know what I'm doing here.
can you see that little pop up?
Yeah, I saw it. What's been your favorite discovery doing your own family history? Oh my god. Favorite discovery. Well, I found out I had a sister. So, I guess that's not really genealogy research. It was just DNA testing, but that's been fun.
Genealogy?
Hmm?
That is still genealogy. DNA is part of
It's
genealogy.
not like me doing paper
So I guess
research.
they
Just
could
like,
argue.
yeah. Yeah. So that's fun. Luckily, I shouldn't say luckily because everything happens for a reason, but like I know a lot of people when they do like paper research and they go back and find out that their grandpa wasn't actually their grandpa or someone had an affair, and I haven't had any of those discoveries yet. Yet I say yet because it's very possible. um, but yeah, I don't know. I think everything is interesting when you discover it.
Okay, and another one from Fiona. Do you, Daniel and Lisa, if you could go back in time and be part of your ancestry for 24 hours, who would you go hang out? Ooh, who would you go hang out with? I feel I might let you answer that one first, and then I'll answer that.
Ooh. Okay, this is like a two-part. I think I would go hang out with my second great grandfather. Second great grandfather? His name was Patrick O'Toole, and I choose him because he like disappears off the face of the planet. Like he remarried this woman. After he married her, he sent all his kids to like live with different families, and he just like disappears with this woman. They might have joined the circus because this was in Baraboo, Wisconsin at the time. But I'd probably go hang out with him because I just have no idea what happened to him. Um, yeah, I think there's like the ancestors that you'd go hang out with to like get the answers to, but then there's also the ancestors that you've kind of just like fallen in love with by like researching them. And in that case, I would probably go hang out with maybe like my Irish immigrant ancestors. There were a bunch of women there. That would be fun, I think.
Oh, for me, if I could split it up into if I could split it up like half and half, and maybe thirds, uh, there's kind of three people I would. One of them is my paternal great grandfather, John Loftus, and there's a story that he supposedly had. Okay, so he was married to my great grandmother, but the thing is, it looks as if he had married before, like a year prior. But the strange thing is, he doesn't put widower down on his second marriage or the one that I know to be my great grandmother. Like he didn't put widower down. And there was always, oh yes, or I just saw Shannon reminded me one of my questions. Thank you. um, I will ask you that. But there's a rumor that he had supposedly. Oh, I've disproved it. But the story was that he had his first wife was supposedly from a very wealthy family, and he had supposedly killed her. Apparently, that is wrong. I
Okay.
had actually. Yeah, I know. I almost dropped dead on the spot here. But kind of what actually happened is that she had very severe morning sickness, being pregnant with their child. So obviously, unfortunately, she would have lost that child as well as unfortunately passing away and having this severe morning sickness. I can't remember the name of it. Anyone that is watching might be able to remind me of the term, but I can't remember it. The second one I probably would. I know I'm going on and on here, but my second one would probably be my great grandfather Pax, or my maternal great grandfather Pax. He was part of, and if you guys are into Irish history, you'll know what the IRA is. Yeah, I know. He was involved in that. Commander in that, and he was involved in the rising in Dublin in 1916, and he was supposedly sent off. Now, I hadn't known this, but I only found this out through a Facebook group to someone who actually knew a bit more of the local history than I did. It looks as if he got sent off to Ballykinlar prison, which is in County Down, and he was in County Waterford. He was down off the south, and he was shipped up to the north in the prison for a while. I don't know how long, but which is strange because father-in-law. Oh my God! Wow, love a family rumor. Yeah, it's a wild rumor, but rumor nonetheless. But it's ironic because his father-in-law was sent to Ballykinlar for 2 years from quote unquote an ordeal from which he never recovered. And I don't know
What does
what that
that mean?
ordeal is. I can't, yeah, I know, I can't find anything in the newspapers or anything. So I've no idea what it is. Debatable whether I will or not. But yeah, so there is some, how you might say, interesting things happening on that. And the third person would actually be the father-in-law, the person I just mentioned, because I'd like to know, because he was quite, he was a bit of a figurehead in the community where he was. So it would kind of be nice to kind of know him a bit and also to know what on earth happened to his wife, because his wife, ended up in a mental institution and ended up dying there in 1913 or 14. It's one of them. She was in the 1911 census. I couldn't find her. I was kind of thinking, oh, she's off. Because annoyingly, the census return for the place that I want in 1911 is not digitized. So that's why I couldn't find my great grandmother and her brother for a while. And I couldn't find the mother, but she was born in Mooncoin, which is on the Kilkenny and Waterford border. And she ended up in a mental institution at some point between, like, she could have, like, I think it said on the census, because I think it's a bit different if it's, a mental institution one, there's a different form for it. But I think it kind of said that she was in there for like depression, but not, but so like I think it was like postnatal depression or something.
Yeah.
But but if she was still in there in 1911, she would have been in there for quite a while because she had her last child that I can find in 1896.
Wow.
So she possibly would have been in there for 15 years,
I feel like
depending.
back in the day they just put women in mental institutions just for anything.
I don't know.
So yeah.
Oh, they may well have done. And I think it said that she had it for 20 years. So
Wow.
that was 1891. Well, sorry, this is a 1911 census. So if you knock off 20 years, that'd be 1891. She didn't even have a child yet.
Wow.
Oh, I don't know. But I think it then said it was hereditary. So I think possibly the mother had it as well. But would have been strange because like you'd it kind of answered because they had a local museum in Waterford County Museum, also waterfordmuseum.ie. If any of you want to go and see it, it's good if you have Waterford heritage and they have a good place for local history, so that's always a good place to go. And there I could never see, like, there were never any photos of Mary. Mary was the name, but there was never any photos of her. And that might answer why. Because there was
Yeah.
a photo they had, well, not had, I've found on their website, of my great grandmother, her brother, and her father, but her mother was nowhere to be seen. And and if the census thing is true for how long she's been there, then she would have been in the mental institution when this photo was taken.
Yeah.
And it would also be interesting to know, like, how long she was there for. Or so, or no, sorry, not that. I was one kind of thinking how often her kids would have seen her, if at
Yeah.
all. Because, well, she obviously would have had the kids, so 1896 is the last one. And so after that time, I don't know how often they would have seen her. It's something I would like to know, but I'm not sure if I ever will. I
Yeah.
don't even. I'm not sure if you can actually try and find like these documents that will tell you like how long or so like why she was committed or so
Yeah,
like a
I
bit.
haven't had any ancestors go into mental institutions. I know some people have had luck in finding like old medical records, but I think it's like pretty rare.
Yeah, and if anyone knows where I might find old medical records, stick them here. I'll look at them later. But I'm going to go back into the question before it gets completely moved up. Is there a record type that you find particular use? Have you've just found useful? I'll just leave it there.
Ooh. Um, okay, naturalization records, especially when you compare a naturalization record with a passenger list, they're like, mwah, they're like they blossom into this beautiful, like, treasure trove of genealogy.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever seen like an American naturalization record, but they
I
have so much information. They give you like the exact, well, the ones from the 20th century do. Farther back, they're not as great, but like more contemporary naturalization records give you like the address where they lived, like not only the country where they came from, but like the town where they came from, the ship they came on, the exact date, like all their family members. They're just like everything.
absolutely. I had a grandaunt that had emigrated to New York, and no one had really, apart from two of her nieces, who I eventually found out that they had married, and I didn't know. Um, but it answered because they were mentioned in her obituary, but I only knew them by their maiden names, or had known of them by their maiden names, but they were down with their married names. So that answered, okay, that is definitely her because those are her two nieces. Um, and yeah, that and there was a photo of her. I couldn't. Oh my god! Like I've said many times, I'm a sucker for old photos. Ah,
Yeah.
another question. I will ask that in a minute. I'm remembering each of them as I go along, so I just need to keep yapping on. But people may want to leave because they might get sick of me for doing that. But so I had seen this naturalization record, and it was just all the info. It was just adding up, adding up, adding up. So and her name was Kathleen, but it was spelled Cathle. So it wasn't a traditional way.
Yeah.
Um, and gave her birthday, gave her where she was living, so Behola, County Mayo. That's perfect. And Treen Duff, if you want to be specific. Another, and it was kind of saying who she was going to be with the affidavit in the affidavit, and I didn't know the surname was Divine, Devine. I did not know who that was.
That's my one of my Irish surnames. Have we had this conversation before? Maybe we're cousins.
Possibly, I don't know.
I
Uh,
don't know.
no, his name was Cormac F. Divine, and he had married Catherine Noon, which is my great grandaunt, and I didn't know where the Divines fitted in until I had found that she had her that my granddad's aunt had immigrated, married, had kids. That was her and her son on the affidavit, so that filled in even more. And the bit I couldn't get over was the photo because nobody
Yeah.
had a photo of her, and it was just so nice. Because on my dad's on my granddad's family, it's just I have a photo of every one of them, so I can just line them up and go like, "This is all the family." And it's just nice when you can add faces to a name. And one that you actually helped me find was grand my great grandaunt and her daughter, and it was a passport application form.
Oh yeah, I was
You,
gonna say passport application. I helped you find that.
yeah, no, you did. Yeah, you would help me find that, and
I don't
that
remember.
was I didn't have. It's annoying because the one that you had found, her sister, my great grandmother, she died in 1965, and no one can find a photo of her. And her husband died 5 years later, and no one can find a photo of him.
Yeah.
And it's annoying because, like, I had a photo. I was able to get a photo of my great granddad and the other great granddad and the other great grandmother. And there was one that I was given, and I didn't know the context. It was the two of them together, and they looked quite young. Little did I know that was their wedding photo.
Oh.
It wasn't obvious, but it was nice. Like for 1911, like it was nice seeing it because that's the only photo I have of my great grandfather, and there was
Yeah.
more of my grandmother. But it's strange because great grandmother had died in 1963, and her husband died in 57. Yet I still got a photo of them. Yet I can't get one of them in six. And yet I can't get one of a great grandmother in 65 and another one 70. I don't know. It's
I'm
strange.
impressed that you have all these dates memorized. I barely can remember someone's like my second or my third.
Oh no, I can remember dates better than I can remember how to do accounting. So well, I mean, they may serve me in life better than accounting ever will. I don't know. But I will be honest, if my accounting teacher is watching this, this will be this will be embarrassing. No, I know she isn't. But so one, but yeah, that I can definitely relate to you in the sense of, naturalization records. I love them.
They're my
They're
favorite.
very nice. Uh, so one question was that if what do you wish you knew when you started that you know now? I
Um,
imagine lots of things.
so when I first started, I think I was maybe your age or like a little bit younger. I was in high school. And I was just plugging things in on Ancestry for my mom's side of the family because my dad was only doing his side, so I thought I'd start with my mom. And I remember I had this like family history book that one of my like distant cousins had written with all the names of all the siblings who came here from Sweden. It was like a big family from Sweden that I was like inputting on Ancestry, and they all had like first names and middle names and like specific dates of birth. And so I was putting them in an Ancestry, and like I got hints from other people's family trees where like the name was spelled with like one letter different, or like the middle name and the first name were switched. And I like freaked out. I was like, what does this mean? Like, am I doing it wrong? And I think I wish that I had known back then that like it doesn't matter. Like names are gonna like someone may go by Ellen one year and then the next year they'll go by Teresa. Like middle names, first names switch. No one really knew their birthday. Like you just got to get past it. Because I think I was trying so hard to be a perfectionist that I needed like the exact date, the exact like spelling of the name. So I wish I knew that because I spent a lot of time like trying to figure that out back in the day.
Yeah. Now that ironically that reminds me of one thing. That great granddad that you found that passport application form for.
Yeah.
In the censuses, she went by I think about three different names. She went by her name was Ellen Agnes. Not even a name. Ellen Agnes, and she went by Ellen, her birth name, Eleanor,
Yeah.
Eleonora, and somehow Honora. I don't even know how you get Honora from Ellen, but I could, like, her husband was more, like, consistent.
Yeah.
Come on. How hard
I
is it
think
to go? How hard is it to go by a real name instead of like three different? I'm gonna go like, oh, I'm in an Eleonora mood. I'll go by that on the census instead. Or I'm really in a bad mood. I'll give him hell and say Honora.
yeah.
No.
It happens so often. And when I was just starting out genealogy, I thought like this is so hard. Like what was their real name? I'm never gonna know. But yeah, it just doesn't matter. They had multiple names.
Oh yeah. I had a grandaunt that was Evelyn. Her name was Mary Ellen, and so it was. It's a case of they interchanged, and it's not a case of you need to know where they came from. It's just if you know the actual birth name, it can help you on your way. Because
Yeah.
if I just went exactly by Ellen in the census that I was trying to find, I would have only found her in like 1910 or something, or basically not any. you know, like I wouldn't have found her very often. But if I had done what I did and went by the husband's name, I would have found her every time, which I did eventually. But it
That's
was a
annoying. Like
pain.
when you can't find a female ancestor, you just type in their husband and there she is. It's really annoying.
I just saw one. I have an Eleanor and Eleanor. Yeah, Eleonora. Well, I don't. Yeah, it's annoying. And I know the feeling. Two of my great grandfathers went by their middle names in later life. One thing I
Yeah.
found is that, like, like, like my ancestors, like, I know a good few, like some of you watching probably do have ancestors that had middle names. But I think, like in my direct line, I don't ever. I think on my dad's side, I didn't have anyone of my direct ancestors that had a middle name. It was just one. It just went like John or John or John. I'm not kidding. I have three generations of Johns. And
Sounds
then
all
they
right.
threw a spanner in the work and gave Michael, which was my grandfather. So thankfully that helped. Although, in fairness, my grandfather did have a brother named John, so technically, and then he had a kid named John, I'm pretty sure. So John is a very common name in my family history, annoyingly. But on my mother's side, like direct, like even if you just go back to my grandmother, like she had a middle name. She was Kathleen Ann, so like she had a middle name. So, but she only went by either Kate or Kathleen. Like she like too much from no name. My mum all the info.
Oh,
One thing
sorry. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or if it's.
says mine. Um, and again, like always, those if you have any questions, please to the comments, and I'll definitely ask Lisa them throughout. Um, so hopefully I'm not going too out on you. Hopefully. So one thing. Now I think this is from the end, but to be honest, this one. So what advice would you give someone starting out?
Oh. Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit, but I don't know if it's my phone or if it's on your end. But I heard the question, so hopefully I'm good now. What advice would I give for someone starting out? Okay. I know this is not everyone's like choice in how they do research. I like to just do my direct line, and I only research siblings if I have to. Um, I think when people are just starting out, they get so overwhelmed because they like get to their great grandpa and he had 11 siblings, and so they have to like put in all those names and trace their lines. And I just tell people like, no, like just focus on your line. Like you don't have to put everyone in your family tree, but some people prefer to do that, so I don't want to say like that's wrong. But I've seen a lot of people get overwhelmed with just like all the names and all the siblings. And so I guess to like avoid that overwhelm, I tell people to just focus on like one specific line or just on your direct line. Um, I guess that's what I would say. But again, like a lot of people do like researching the siblings and the broader family tree, so I don't want to say that's wrong, but it can be really overwhelming.
Oh, very much. Because I remember when I was starting out, I, when I literally the night I was probably the night after I was starting out, I was basically sitting down with my mum in front of the computer, and I was putting all the people that my mum had in a book that my nana had with all the info into the tree, and I've been like, God's sake, I'm at the 50th person, like in the tree, and it's just like, and this person had 7 kids, and this one had 3, and the rest of them had like 4 or 5 or something, and it's just like, come on. And
Yeah.
going back to you said about so like researching like your direct line, like one thing I do find is that some people go very extensive, and like I don't know why, but like sometimes I'll feel like when I'm researching, it's just kind of like, I don't know these people. Why am I putting them in my tree? But then you could argue that anyone past the people that you know in real life, you don't really know. So
Yeah.
you're going to say, oh, well, if I'm putting them in, I might as well do them. But yeah, so I had, because like, I know some people and they'll have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people in their tree. And I'm kind of thinking, me? I have 300, I probably have about 360 on my dad's side and probably about 290 on my mum's, which is
Yeah.
about 50 in total. So compared to people with thousands of people in their tree, look at mine. It's not very extensive. But I do, but that's another thing you have to kind of keep in mind. You may have like thousands and thousands of people, but how researched are they?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, you'd rather like to have a smaller amount of people better researched and like confirmed, kind of saying, right, this person was born on, I'm picking dates here, 11th of May, 1901, in, again, picking places, Bahola, County Mayo. Like, as long as you like have it like well sourced and like well researched, like it's better than having loads like thousands of people that are not so greatly researched and there's like every little curveball thrown in. Uh, like that's another thing you have to keep in mind. What's better, the quantity or quality? Uh,
That's another thing I would say to people for just starting out. Cite your sources. Stop copying trees on Ancestry.
oh, I know. And like one experience I had, like most of the people, there was one. I blogged about this instance, but and for anyone watching, you know that you probably heard me say I don't rely on ancestry hints very heavily. I do look at them, but probably not as much as I probably should or do. But my great grandfather, Pax, who I mentioned earlier, had a sister named May, and it was strange. She was coming up with about 14 other people's trees. And I was kind of thinking, okay, then how come my great grandfather's only showing up in about 5 or 6 and she's showing up in 14?
Yeah.
So when I had an ancestry subscription, I looked at them and then deduced about 85% of them had confused them with some other lady with the same name and had joined my May in with this random woman who had the same name. Like, so Pax and his siblings are all born in Waterford, and their surname is Whelan. And if any of you who are familiar with Waterford research, Whelan is common as muck. And with a name like Mary Bridget, that makes it even worse. So they were confusing this Mary Bridget, what was her name? Whelan, and with some complete random thing saying that she was one of 5 children. That was correct. Well, my one was. I don't know about this one, but that was correct. And the father was Patrick, so that wasn't really going to help you in your search much. And it was just, and the life story, I looked at one of them. It was kind of saying she was born in Waterford. She emigrated to the US. I think she ended up in New York, married, had one child, then hightailed it over to like California or something on the other side of the continent. Kind of thinking, well, I mean, this is the 1900s, but I don't think even then they would have been that mobile.
Yeah.
And I think there was one that said that she went back to Ireland again and then went back to US, and she was, oh, it was so messy. I just had to stop myself from looking at it. And I ended up contacting about 5 of the tree owners, and very few of them had replied to me. But the one that did, we then deduced, because he had a photo of this Mary in his tree. So I just said, okay, it's a bit fuzzy on my end. Could you email the photo that you have to me? And then I have a photo of my May, or Maisie, she also went by, just so I can see if there's any like consistencies or similarities. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was, and I kind of, and I, oh my, have to be the one. I had to, that his, that he has to, a huge, he just kind of said, you, okay, that went up than it could have possibly been. And so be careful when using ancestry hints, because they could lead you down the wrong road, like half of the people in this hint did. Anyway, I'm rambling on. So
no, I finally decided to make my tree. I go back and forth, but I finally decided to make my tree private on Ancestry because I was just tired of people. Like, I don't want to be like that person who like keeps their research secret, but like so many people just go on there and like copy what I say or like take my photos, put them on like the wrong people in their tree, and I was like, I don't want to be a part of this, so I just made it private. Yeah. But I don't know.
And like, I do share your opinion with that. I did have, like, I had got in contact with a distant match, and like, well, not DNA match. I say match, not DNA. But kind of, it was the closest relative I could get with a paper trail. I haven't done a DNA test yet, but maybe down the line. But this match, it's not she. What am I on about? I didn't have a subscription at the time, so I just kind of said, hey, I just said to someone, do you mind if could contact this person for me? I really think I might be able to get somewhere. And I got in contact with this person, and they emailed me once. I emailed them back. Didn't get anything back. And that was like, actually, probably about a year ago. Anything. But she copying what I had on my grandfather's family. If she had taken, why am I doing it? If this person had kept taking, it's like I had photos of my grandfather's family in my tree at this time, and if that person had taken the photos, I kind of like, right, no. And I know so like people have asked me, why do you feel like this? Well, it's a case of, the only thing that gets me is the fact that the person didn't reply. She just had taken what I had researched long and hard and just kind of put it in her tree without even talking to me. Like, she didn't even reply, which I thought was rude, but I don't know. Back to the drawing board. But, back to the drawing board. More ways to drawing cousins. But no, that was the only experience. And one person here, I have the same problem on Ancestry. I made my tree private as well. So it does happen. And going back to nicknames, in my program, we are learning ways to get around all the nicknames I was completely unfamiliar with, certain naming patterns like Bridget or Delia. I actually had a granddaunt I could not find. Like, I kept searching Delia. Her name was Delia Lavin, that we knew her as. Little did I know she was a Bridget Agnes on her birth cert. And it was, she, that Bridget, did you know that Bridget is, so like Delia can also be Bridget? And I'm kind of thinking, I'm sorry. Like, I couldn't even believe it, because typically that side was, so like, they didn't really change names typically. They kind of went by what they knew. Or so like, if it was like a Patrick, he went by Paddy. If it was a John, it was Johnny or something. It wasn't really it was the beaten track, but kind of Bridget and Delia, I have no idea how that happened.
Yeah.
Not at all. Anyway, so I was elated when I found that birth cert. It was just like, yes, I found it. And fun fact, she was actually born on Christmas Eve. So I can imagine that a very noisy Christmas that year. 1914. I can only imagine it would have been a very noisy Christmas at that time. What's the present? Oh, what's the present? Oh, we have a newborn daughter. Don't forget that. But yeah. So obviously, with obviously time going on, and you know, the older generation passing on, and obviously not many people younger people like me might pick up the reins. But do you think, in your opinion, that there are like places or outlets for like young genealogists to like read things that will help them, but it's by people their own age, so they can like share experiences in that sense? I'm really bad at wording this, but you probably get what I'm asking.
Like resources for young genealogists to
I guess a place for young genealogists to express themselves. Because I guess, so like when I started out, the main thing I kind of felt was kind of loneliness, because I didn't really know or have anyone like my own age or around my own age even to like share this with or talk about. Because in my school it was kind of like, fun fact, I had asked someone what they thought genealogy was, and their reply involved a toaster, a genie, and a lamp. No, not quite.
Well, just by like being on Instagram, I think automatically connects you to other younger genealogists, because obviously Instagram. So I think just by its nature, it like connects you to people. That's how I met you. That's a good question. I mean, you do a bit of that on Twitter, right? With like Hidden Branch, that's like for young genealogists, or am I misunderstanding that?
No, you're right for that. You should join on Twitter. You should join. There's loads of fun.
I get sucked into the Twitter, like I just can't be on Twitter. I live in DC, like Twitter in DC. I can't. I have to avoid it. But maybe genealogy Twitter is a little bit better.
Just mute topics and things that you don't want to hear about. Random trends that show up, and kind of like with me, I mainly kind of focus on like on Twitter, I mainly focus on genealogy. I don't have a second account on Twitter. It's just that one. So it's fun in the fact that I can just talk about genealogy, and I happened, for those of you who follow me on Twitter at Daniel Genealogy, if you haven't already, you'll see in my bio it says tweeting about genealogy mostly in brackets. I have mostly because I will rant about school and how annoying it is in these times. And I have a good old rant sometimes, and it really does the world of good. So you can always have a rant, but no. So I'm trying to think what. Like, it's stupid. Like, I don't know how many people I've sent these silly questions out to, and I came up with them. I can't. Like, I probably remembered about 3 or 4 of them. Like in total, 12.
I think one of them was what resources you find most helpful.
Oh,
I don't know if you already went over that.
That was one. What resources have you found? So, like, or is there one that you found more helpful than another? I think was kind of along the lines?
Not a specific record set or like a specific resource, but I didn't have an Ancestry subscription for the longest time, which like forced me to like do the research myself because I wasn't getting hints. I was using Family Search mostly to do the research, and I think that is really helpful. Like if you get off Ancestry and you stop getting the hints, you really like catch on how to do the research yourself. It sort of like sets you up to think like, okay, what do I need to look for? Where can I look for it?
Yeah, it kind of develops
like a more independent researcher.
It develops the skills that you need.
Yeah.
Kind
so
of,
I think that was really helpful for me.
Yeah. And I can relate because I think because if you saw me in my early days, you kind of go like, oh my God, you'd just be kind of go like, come on, you're supposed to be doing this, not that, this, not that. And it's just, yeah, you probably would have gotten sick of me just like watching me doing things. Because you're probably gonna go like, I can't do this anymore. Just watching it. Because for me, I didn't really know that genealogy was a thing. I just thought, oh, let's do a family tree, and it was just like I just had a family tree, and that was it. And it was only when I had gone to a cousin's house and showed the research that I had done that she kind of said, have a look at this website. It's Genealogy, and kind of I kind of like, yeah, yeah, I'll keep it in mind. And then I probably went about 2 weeks, and I thought, what was that website she was saying again? And then went to it, and then I will admit, if you're using the Irish Genealogy website, you need to kind of know, because they would find records by civil district, and I didn't know. So for a while, when I was doing my dad's family, there's just a case of, right, which of these locations is nearest to where I'd be looking? And for where I was looking, Swinford was, or Swineford, whatever way you want to say it, was kind of the nearest one to it. So I thought, okay, go there. And then I kind of like, this is so handy. And it was just, yeah, I was a bit addicted to Irish genealogy after that. But no, for what it's worth, it has helped me like find half of my heritage and like help me track down. So I just kind of filled in a bit of the gaps and saw like who the people before me were. And there was one where, what was it? I think back. So I was looking at my grandfather's family, and I still to this day can't find a birth cert for one of them. He from the date that people have told me, he was either born the 22nd, 24th, or 25th of December in 1912. But the strange thing is, he had a brother born in January of that same year, and people are going to say, no, it's a pair of Irish twins.
Yeah.
And it's strange because he had a name. His name is Tom, and I can't find his birth cert anywhere. I don't know what I have to do to find it, but
Yeah.
I'm really tempted in just ringing the General Register office and just kind of asking, is there a record for Tom Loftus, born 25th or therearound, December 1912 in Swinford? I'm really tempted in doing that. I probably will at some point. And if they just kind of say no, then I know someone's lying.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's strange. And I only kind of I know I've been ranting on for like an hour now, and this is probably one of the longer lives. And first of all, thank you for actually sticking with me for this hour.
I just hope my phone doesn't die. I tried plugging it in, but I don't know if it's charging.
No, because I guarantee you, like my family watch this sometimes, and I can guarantee you, they are not watching now. I just look now, so they are. I only realised because my great-grandfather Pax was born in July of 1890, and his parents got married in May of 1890. So they had a little bit of a shotgun marriage.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking, oh, eight
I
months
love that.
pregnant,
Love that part of
7 months
genealogy because
pregnant on the altar.
I love
Like,
that because I think when we think about people back in the day, we think like, oh, they were very religious, like very
yeah,
conservative and proper, and they did things by the books. But then when you like
they
look
didn't
into it, like no, they
children
were just like,
until they had married, that kind of a thing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
sorry, what were you saying? I'm completely cut across.
Oh no, it's fine. I don't know. My like internet's pretty bad. What was I saying? No, yeah, because I think we have the tendency to like look back and just assume our ancestors or like the people who lived 100 years ago, 200 years ago were very like proper and conservative and they did everything by the books. And then you find these little secrets and you realize, oh, they were just people like today.
Yeah, like, and one thing that I tweeted about, so like, obviously, if you've heard the news that someone had gone for "Who do you think you are," and they were told that their family history was too dull or something along those lines, and I was kind of thinking, well, not necessarily. Like, people do have something interesting, but um, you know, they do have something interesting. Every family does, but you just have to find it.
Yeah.
But I would say that, but then again, my dad's family is very much plain. It's
Hmm.
ag labs as far as the eye can go. Um, and
And is your
you
family
see,
mostly? Oh, sorry.
no, no, I'm, but no, it's
Is
strange
your
because
family history mostly in Ireland?
yeah, these are all in like one part of Ireland, but it was just because they didn't have anything interesting. Like, I may now, I was kind of thinking, not me, not mine. I had seen a prison record for possibly a potential three times great grandfather for me, who was in jail for stealing material to make shoes.
Oh,
But then again, my ancestors are not very interesting. So probably
yeah.
not mine. But then again, this is the thing that I can't get over. They have the most common names in the area. They don't have it. Like, you could kind of say, that probably might be him,
But you'll never know.
but you'll never know.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's just a case of, well, I might, but it'll stay as I might. It won't be saying I do or I don't. It'll be staying as I might until I can prove otherwise. But yeah. And going back to the shotgun wedding point I had a German, okay, Nina, I had a German record to translate where the pastor said that the child was born 10 weeks after the parents' marriage. This was in 1795.
Wow. Good for you for finding that record.
Like that, like that, in I think those times, like it would have been frowned upon or something. Like, this is the thing, they would have had such a stigma in those times.
Yeah.
And it's a case of, like, and for like I really do love watching reels and so like yours, and I like the so like one where you're kind of saying, you see this, we want this, we love this, we need this with
Yeah.
this, we want this. I like that one. Where she had a name and nothing else, and it just like shows them in 10 other trees. I like that one. And another one I liked was Fill Your Roots, and it was just kind of she had a reel where it was kind of, I think it was like when you discover a bigamist or something in your tree, or so like when you discover a bigamist or something in the tree.
That one was good.
Yeah, that was, I wasn't prepared for the end bit, but that was fantastic. And Nina, reading the comment you put up earlier, Nina, I'm not lying with this. So much for waiting until the wedding night. No, not quite, especially not with my great grandfather. And the strange thing is, like, someone had in their tree, like a few people had in ancestry trees, that they had my great grandfather Paxton. I know I'm ranting, and I will end this soon because I've gone on for an hour. I don't usually do it this long, but it's a case of I really should try and get out the structure bit and and just start chatting and everything else. But yeah, so like my great grandfather Pax is in about 6 of the trees, but they had his birthday in as like 24th of February 1893 or something, and I'm kind of thinking, I can't find that. So what documentation do you have to prove? Do you have to prove that that is right?
Yeah.
And like I said, the parents got married in May 1890. He was born in July
Yeah.
of that same year. So I don't know. But yeah. So fudging of dates can really throw things out of kilter, especially in census. I find it very hard to believe some of the details in the census because they may or may not be wrong or right. God.
Yeah.
And because like that's the prime example, and another one, like they were kind of saying, oh, this first like Pax was supposedly the second or third child. He was the oldest, and the one that they were saying was the oldest, he was the second oldest. So there was a bit of switching.
Yeah.
And if you kind of think, like one of the people in the 1916 Rising, I think the youngest casualty was like a 14 or 15-year-old boy in the 1916 Easter Rising, but I'm not sure if he had, you know, lied about his age or something, or I don't know. But kind of, it was just sad to me that a 14 or 15-year-old boy had died fighting.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't know. It's horrible. But yeah. So I will think of something else to say. Either that, or I might just spontaneously end. No, I won't. But
I will give you a warning that my phone just like turned, and I don't know if it's about to die, and the charger's not working. So if I like randomly disappear, it's because my phone died.
No. Well, I think that might be a good time to end so that you don't accidentally cut it.
Yeah.
So, sorry for the last destruction. I guarantee you, I will find the stupid sheet somewhere, and I'll kind of go like, of course it's there. But thank you everyone for coming along and watching this interview. Longer than I usually do, I know, and without any structure, I know. Scandalous, Daniel, whatever have you done? It's different. That's all I can say.
It worked.
Yeah, it did. We passed an hour, so we did something right. So I think on that note I'll end. So thank you everyone for coming along, and I will announce my last interview, series 2, tomorrow or maybe tonight, depending if I'm feeling interested and assuming I'm not absolutely knackered from earlier on. And I will be ending out on a bang, and I will have a nice little graphic like I did with series 1, where I did a little tree thing. So all the photos that I used for that will be going in another little one. So without further ado, I'll end it there. So see you all next week.
Thanks, guys.